Hey everyone, Mrs. Patola here. Great job on Unit 2, boys and girls. Today we're going to focus on our new unit. We're going to begin Unit 3, Properties and Expressions. And if you take a look in your workbook, these are some of the lessons along with some of the lesson names that we'll be covering in this unit. So we'll be looking at powers and exponents, order of operations a couple of days. Properties we'll be focusing on a couple of days, especially that distributive property. We'll be translating expressions, changing from word form to standard form and standard form to word form, evaluating algebraic expressions, with input-output tables, and of course some problem solving and our test review. Let's get started with our new unit and lesson 1, powers and exponents. Unit 3, lesson 1, powers and exponents. So how can we write powers and exponents? Well, take a look at the diagram over here, boys and girls, and we see here we have something that's written. We say it's 8 to the third power, and we say that's equal to 8 times 8 times 8. This big 8 here is called our base number. The smaller number is known as our exponent. Let's get started with the do now. What is another way to write 4 times 4 times 4 times 4 times 4? Well, we kind of gave you a little clue here. I bet you it's using an exponent. We could say 4, because that's the number we're multiplying, and then it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 4 to the 5th power is another way we could write it. And the numbers above that you are multiplying, okay, the numbers here are called what? What are all these 4s called? They are called factors. Good to know this stuff, boys and girls. Remember that the do now, those questions are usually seen on your unit test. Start off today's lesson with the following questions. What is an exponent and what is the base? Well, again, here we have another diagram, and it says how to calculate exponents. This bottom number, if we just read the diagram, this bottom number here is the base, and the number that's next to it, that small little number to the upper right, is called the exponent. Or it's also known, believe it or not, as the index. And it tells us how many times to multiply the base by itself. For example, when we see this problem here, we would read this as 2 to the 4th power. Or we could say 2 to the power of 4. Okay, so the base, to go back to these questions, the base is the bottom number. That's the number at the bottom that gets multiplied by itself. So in this example here, the base is 2. And the exponent is the number that tells, it says, what is an exponent? That is the number that tells you how many times to multiply the base. Please pause the video and copy that down. So for these lessons, what we're going to be doing is answering each question and then solving. So you definitely want to have your calculator out and ready with you. Number 1, what is another way of writing this here? How would you write that? We could say 3 to the 4th power, or we could also say 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. And then we can just pop it in our calculator, and we multiply 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. It says to solve, our final answer is 81. But we could also write it as 3 to the 4th power. Please write that down. Pause the video. And there you have it. Number 2, what is another way of writing this here? How would we write that one? And we could say for that one, we could say 2 to the 3rd power, 2 times 2 times 2, or 2 to the 3rd power, or even 2 to the power of 3. And when we solve it, they're asking us to multiply 2 times 2 times 2. So our final answer is 8. Let's take a look at number 3. We have 5 to the 5th power. So what would that look like? Well, sometimes instead of multiplication, you may see this thing that looks like a dot. So instead of using a multiplication sign for 5 times 5 times 5 times 5 times 5, you may see this, 5, and then a dot, 5, dot, 5, dot, 5, dot, 5. That little dot means the same as multiplication. Okay, it may mean to multiply. In 6th grade, we use the dot. You also sometimes, instead of multiplication, instead of the x for multiplying, you might see parentheses. So sometimes you might even see something like this. All of the 5s in parentheses. When you see numbers in parentheses, it often means either 1, do it first, or 2, multiply. And since we did number 3 up above, your final answer is 3,125. All right, number 4, what's another way of writing the following? Try that one on your own, pause the video, and see what you can come up with. And that would be 5 to the 7th power. And lastly, number 5, what is another way of writing 8 times 8 times 8? And the answer is 8 to the 3rd power. Or sometimes when we see it to the 3rd power, we actually could say it is 8 cubed. So when you see a 3, it means cubed. By the way, when you see 8 to the 2nd power, any idea what we would call that? And I might be asking you that in class. I would definitely want to know these. Okay, that another way to write 8 to the 2nd power would be known as 8 squared. 8 squared. All right, on to the next page. On this page, you can see that we have this awesome chart. It says write each as a power of 10. If we look through the chart, we see the actual place value denominations. We have ones, we have tens, hundreds, thousands, 10,000s, 100,000s, millions, and 10 millions. And each number can be represented with an exponent. So for 10 to the 0 power, for the first one, the value would actually be 1. It's not 0. Any number, by the way, any number that's to the power of 0, okay, would be equal to 1. So I would write this down, any number to the power of to the power of 0, power of 0 is equal to 1, is equal to 1. So if you have 10 to the 0 power, that value is going to be 1. If I had, as an example, 4 to the 0 power, that is equal to 1. You would think it would be equal to 0, right? But it is equal to 1. So any number, you need to know that, any number to the power of 0 is always equal to 1. Let's move on to number 6. So we have the number 100 using the chart above. We're going to write that using an exponent. So basically all you would have to do is match them up. So this is 100. I go to the hundreds column and I would see that it is 10 to the power of 2. So here's a little strategy and see if you can come up with it. When you have the number of 2's in a power of 10, the number of zeros will match your exponent. One more time. The number of zeros in your power of 10 will match your exponent. So look at number 7. Number 7 has 1, 2, 3 zeros. So I would have 10 to the power of, 3. You got it. How about number 8? Number 8 is 10. So that would be 10 to the first power. And lastly, number 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That would be 10 to the 8 power. To sum it up, in every example, the 10 is called, what is the 10 called in each of these? Just as a review, is it the base or is it the exponent? It is called the base. Good. It's all about the base. And go ahead and try number 11 and 12 on your, pause the video and give them a try. And there you have the answers to number 11 and 12. This last page will be your independent work. Okay, so complete each section. Notice that the directions for each section changes. There are example problems so that they will help you to understand, and we will be checking our answers tomorrow in class. Have a great day, everyone.